Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kara, and today's video is going to be part one of a two-part series about what you should consider before relocating. In today's video, I will provide 6 different things you should consider, and in my next video, I will provide another 6. So in total, 12 things that you should consider before relocating. Now, I know my channel does tend to focus a lot on Asheville and the Asheville region, but this video will be relevant if you are considering relocating to another part of the country. Alright, let's jump right into the content. Number 1 is, what are the pros and cons of the area? Now, naturally, when people consider moving to a certain area, they will most likely write a pros and cons list. So this might have already been something you've done or have considered doing. In a couple of my other videos, I have mentioned some pros and cons of living in Asheville. I'll pop up a link to a video here that goes into a little bit more detail about that. I won't go into too much detail in this particular video, but check that one out if you want to learn a little bit more about Asheville. Something to note here is that what might be a pro for one person might actually be a con for another. For example, if you really want to live in a walkable area that's close to shops, close to restaurants, and more of a city feel, this could actually be considered a con to someone else who's really looking for that cabin in the woods kind of vibe. So just because something is a pro for you doesn't mean it's necessarily a pro for someone else. A few different things to consider here would be things like, how connected is this city to another one? In other words, are there interstates going through it to make travel easy? Is there an airport in the area? How is the infrastructure? Are there a lot of parks and a lot of trails if you're a nature lover? How are the restaurants if you're a foodie, etc. Number 2 is, what is the housing inventory like? Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I talk about this quite a bit, and just like most places across the country, housing inventory is very low right now. To give you a really quick overview, I'll share a statistic that I mentioned in my April housing market update video that I posted last week. I'll post the link to that here if you haven't seen that video. But in that video, I mentioned that housing inventory is actually half of what it was in Q1 of 2021, and it's actually a quarter of what it was in 2020. That is for Buncombe County, so it's not necessarily all of Asheville, but it's definitely relevant if you're considering moving to this area. Many places across the country are going through a very severe inventory shortage right now, not just for homes to purchase, but also for rentals as well. So definitely keep this in mind when you're considering relocating. Number 3 is, how is the area growing and developing? For example, some areas that are currently quiet and pastoral would definitely not be that way if a huge new subdivision were developed right next door. So before you move to an area, definitely consider where some big subdivisions are going to be developed. You might also want to look into things like flight paths and also zoning changes. So Haywood Road in West Asheville actually just went through a huge rezoning project. There's a massive, I want to say like 200-page, maybe even larger PDF all about what different districts there are along Haywood Road, and the plan is to basically make it more of a multi-use area. So things like this are definitely something you'd want to know about before choosing an area to live. Number 4 is, how are the schools? Now, this is a question that I get asked quite a lot, and I've had a few people reach out to me requesting that I do a video just dedicated to this particular topic. And it's a little bit tough for me because as a real estate broker in the Asheville area, I'm pretty limited to how much I can actually say about the school districts in this region. What I tell everyone is to do your own research and check out places like greatschools.org, and also call up different schools that you're considering to set up an interview with some of the faculty, try to get a tour of the school, and drive around some of the neighborhoods surrounding that area. If you have friends or family in the area that have kids, definitely reach out to them and get their personal opinion as well. Number 5 is, what is the cost of living? Now, naturally included in this category are going to be things like home prices as well as rent prices. You're definitely going to have people out there who are going to say that Asheville is really expensive or it's not that expensive, and as with most things, it's going to be relative to where you're moving from. So I would say to definitely do your own research, and if you want to keep up with local market statistics, then you can definitely follow along with some of my housing market update videos. Wrapped into the cost of living would also be heating and cooling costs. So this might seem like a bit of a minor thing, but if you're coming from somewhere like New England where you're used to paying really high bills in the winter time to heat your home, moving to somewhere like Asheville might seem a little bit cheaper. On the flip side, if you're moving from somewhere like Florida where in the summertime you have to run your AC constantly, you might be pleasantly surprised that you could leave your windows open in Asheville for at least a couple months out of the year. You'll also want to consider things like flood insurance if that is applicable to your particular property, and also commute times. So I know for me personally, my mileage range is definitely a lot bigger than when I was a realtor in Pennsylvania. There I would maybe drive a maximum of 30 minutes to a showing, but here, depending on where a house is located, I could be driving 45 minutes, maybe even an hour if it's really rural and the roads are not direct to get there. So these are definitely things to consider when moving to an area, because you can look at a map and think that a town is close, but if the road to get there is really windy and only 35 miles per hour, then it might take you a lot longer than you initially thought. Last but not least is number 6, and that is, how are the medical services? This is going to be particularly useful if you are middle-aged or older, or have some sort of condition that requires you to be close to medical services or a hospital. Here around the Asheville region, we do have a few different hospitals and a variety of medical services. Well, that is everything for today's video, guys. I'm not too sure when I'm going to be putting out part 2, but it'll definitely be within the next month or so. So definitely keep your eyes out for that one, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite tip was from this video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, share it with your family and friends, and also subscribe if you are not already. One last thing I want to mention before ending this video is that if you are considering moving to the Asheville area, please feel free to reach out to me to get a copy of my free homebuyer guide. I'll leave my contact info in the description box below, as well as at the end of this video. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you very soon in the next one.